Hello, my love doves. I keep being told I need to share more of my story. This can be triggering for some people, so if DV triggers you, scroll away. Otherwise, maybe put me on pause and make some popcorn because I got a story for you. Okay, so we're going to start off with children learn what they live, okay? My daughter, I swear, saved my life on multiple occasions in my life because she was an inspiration to me. I was in a relationship where, it was nothing for me to go home at lunchtime, and my spouse, he worked 8 months out of the 8 years we were together. I had a good job. We had a house, 2 vehicles. I'd come home on my lunch to check on them when she'd be like 4 months old, and I'd get a couple punches to the head, and I'd go back to work and lead a meeting in a boardroom because I could do that, because you get conditioned to this kind of life. And I'm not a stereotypical financially controlled woman. I was the breadwinner. I made the money. I owned the house. I owned the vehicles. I was very easily manipulated and controlled, and that is what happened. So there was this one week, like another example of the relationship is imagine a man sitting feeding a toddler Cheerios, saying, "Call mommy, tell mommy she's a whore, tell mommy she's useless, tell mommy," just that kind of stuff. I lived literally in hell. And I just kept dealing with it. My family didn't like him, so I am a Pisces and stubborn as hell. So I stayed because I wasn't going to ask anybody for help or let them know that they were right. So, yes, that happened. And so one week I watched a lot of TV back then. I was home alone with the baby a lot while he was off at the strippers with my debit card. And yeah. So there's several times, there was on the Women's Network this one week, the J-Lo movie, I think it's called Enough. And I think she actually ends the guy's life at the end of the movie. But I watched that several times that one week. And then I read a clipping in the newspaper, and it was called the Women's Emergency Center back then, had put it out about how children learn what they live. If little girls grow up watching their moms get beat up and abused, that they would accept that in their life. And little boys that grow up watching that will very easily become an abuser as well. And switch the genders, because this is not gender specific, because we all know that women abuse men too, that it's real, and that's even more taboo that nobody talks about. Whole other story. But anyways, I read that article. I had watched that movie several times, and then one day I had cooked his favorite dinner. He came home from work and he came up the stairs. The kitchen was on the second floor with the bedrooms, and I told him what I made, because I was always tiptoeing. This is how you become an intuitive. This is how healers are born, is because we learn to read people starting in my childhood. Like, this is this much of my story. I'm 51. I have a lot of stories. But he come up the stairs. I'm reading his mood. I'm like, I made you your pork chops in the crock pot with the mushroom soup and potatoes and all that. And I was all excited, trying to amp him up. And I could tell by the look in his eyes I was going to have a bad night. I ended up, we were out of, I don't think I was smoking that. I was just smoking cigarettes back then. I've been off and on the ganj for years and years, since I was 11. But I'm off now and have been for over a year. Squirrel, sorry. I get sidetracked a lot. But anyways, I knew it was going to be a bad night. So I actually went and I left. I had a really good job. I worked in my family's business, and I had a very important position there. I was able to go in and borrow, which was not stealing. I put a note, but I took out enough money out of petty cash to buy some of this. And I left the baby with him because she was safe with him. It was me that wasn't safe. And I knew that he would be a lot better if he had some of this. So I went, I picked some up, brought it home. And as I was walking through that door, my brain kept saying, "Don't go in. Don't go in, don't go in." Do you know those movies when you see the chick and she's about to do something and everybody's like, "Don't do it! You idiot, don't do it!" Well, that was me, okay? And I was not listening to my intuition, and my baby girl was inside, so there was no holding me back from going in. So I went in, and that was like a lot of hours of bad things that happened and that my daughter actually witnessed. She didn't get to bed till probably, it was way after 11. It was her first night in her new canopy bed coming out of the crib. And I was sleeping on the futon. I was going to go to bed. It was like 2 in the morning by the time he was tired. He smoked the whole quarter, okay, and was still very, extremely violent that night. So he was in the master bedroom off the kitchen. Her bedroom was beside it. And then I was just outside those rooms sleeping on a futon with a knife under my pillow, debating should I go in and just, not myself. But I sat there for hours contemplating, what should I do? What's going to happen to her? It was all about her. Because if I did this, what's going to happen to her? She's going to end up with his parents or my parents, and they're the ones that created these toxic people in this toxic relationship, so that was not an option. So I couldn't do that. So I talked myself definitely out of doing that, but I seriously did consider it because I was thinking that there was going to be no option. This was going to be relentless the rest of my life. He was going to me, and because he always told me that that was going to happen to myself, and he was going to do that to my family. I don't even know if I can say all this, but I don't even care at this point, because I'm not saying who the person is. If you know me, you know. If you know, you know. And if you don't, I'm not telling anybody because I don't need any problems. But anyways, so my daughter woke up early in the morning. I got her. I took her downstairs. And she was just little, and she loved breakfast sandwiches at McDonald's. So I put on her snowsuit, and I was like, I'm going to get you your favorite breakfast sandwich, but you've got to be really, really quiet, not wake up daddy, okay? Meanwhile, my face is like gargoyle. I got big goosebump up here in my hairline. I'm bruised from literally head to the tops of my feet. And I'm like, we can't wake up daddy. He's sleeping right now. So I got her snowsuit on her. She was looking forward to this. I took the pull-ups, a bag of pull-ups, and threw them underneath the stairs where all the toys were so they couldn't be seen. So if he did wake up and say, where are you going? I could say, I'm just going to the store. She's out of pull-ups. So that would have been fine. So anyways, I also took the keys to the Jeep because we had a Jeep at that time and a pickup truck. I took the keys to the Jeep and threw them in a mound of toys. That way I wasn't taking them there, but they were in the toys. And then I took my daughter, put her in the truck, started the truck that was completely covered in ice because we're from Ontario. And so I turned on the truck and proceeded to de-ice the truck. It took probably 30 minutes. My heartbeat was pounding in my ears. I could feel my aunt. I wasn't really spiritual back then or understand any of that kind of stuff, but I could feel my aunt all around me pushing me, get out, Denise, get out of this, go. She was literally pushing me like this. So I sat there, I scraped the truck and scraped the truck and scraped the truck. Finally it was all clear, and then I got in it and I backed out of the driveway and I drove away. And I have never in my life ever spoke to him again. I had to utilize that women's emergency service. It's called domestic services now. It's got a completely different name, but I utilized them. I had a lot of therapy, but I never went back in that relationship. I never had anything to do with him again. I did have to see him in court a couple times, but not for years and years later before he even tried to have any access to her, because the judge automatically put a 2-year restraining order on him from seeing myself or for seeing her. My daughter and I were very blessed because by the time he did come around and want to see her, she would have been 5. This all happened when she was about 1.5. She was about 5, and then the judge said that he could see her for supervised visits. And she went once, and then the next 3 times she went, she refused to go in because she didn't want to go in. She was very uncomfortable with him for whatever reasons. And then the judge said that she didn't have to go anymore. And then he gave her up for adoption to the man I ended up marrying that raised her as his daughter and took very good care of her. So that is mine and my daughter's story, and why she treats me like she's my mom and she is my protector. Unfortunately, it made an unhealthy aspect to our relationship, but I know she loves me and is always there to look out for me.